Hey, it's Natalie, and welcome back to Primary Focus, the Parent's Guide to Elementary School. In this video, we're going to dive into all of the things to expect when your child is in 5th grade. So we're talking in the United States, kids that are 10 and 11 years old, who are typically in their last year of elementary school. Before we dive in though, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to support my channel, become a member on Patreon or YouTube. Actions like this help little channels like mine become big channels. Thanks. Okay, so you got a 5th grader. This is a big year of transition. Kids who are in 5th grade aren't quite in middle school, but they don't feel like elementary schoolers anymore either. Your little baby is gonna start to act and think that they're a teenager. And even though they're still little in all of our hearts, I guess it's good that they think they're grown because we need this time to help them practice independence, grow confidence, and build stronger relationships while also facing more complex academic and social situations. I want to read to you from the book Yardsticks by Chip Wood. This is my favorite child development book, and I think every single teacher and parent should own this book. It covers ages 4 to 14, and there's 1 chapter per year old. You read 1 chapter a year, and you're going to learn so much about your child as they enter these next phases. 11s are, in a sense, electrified. Relationships with peers and adults are turning topsy-turvy. At home and in school, academically and socially, 11-year-olds are busy engaging whole new worlds with a sense of outward boldness, yet inward tentativeness. Their lives crackle with the energy of change as they begin to establish a sense of physical and emotional identity. I want to repeat part of that right there. Outward boldness, yet inward tentativeness. And I think this is a trend you will see in many 5th graders. They're outgoing, they're boisterous, they're excited to move their bodies, be loud, try new things. They're very active kids. And yet, they can be incredibly anxious at times and very nervous about what moves they're going to make socially, nervous about how hard things are getting in school. And so as we, the adults in the room, find this balance, we have to consider that even though they can seem really boisterous sometimes, they are sensitive little guys that still need a lot of love and support from their parents and from their teachers. This year in 5th grade, you're going to notice a lot of emotional changes, physical changes, and a strong desire to fit in. And at the same time, they're going to be challenged academically in new ways that will require both stamina and strategy. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 key tips so that your child will thrive in 5th grade. Okay, let's dive in with tip number 1, talk openly about hygiene and body changes. Now this probably belongs in the 4th grade video, but 5th grade is just as good a time as any to start talking about puberty and body changes. It is common for girls to start early on the puberty side and boys to start on the later side, but definitely around age 10 and 11 is when you're gonna see a lot of kids experiencing these changes. The big thing we're gonna experience first before we get into the actual big things of puberty is just the smell. 5th grade classrooms stink, particularly after recess, after gym class, and towards the end of the day. The summer months, oh my gosh, it just stinks. And the sweet kids, bless them, they're so unaware, but it is time to start thinking about deodorant and how they are handling hygiene. Your child shouldn't feel insecure or awkward or embarrassed about deodorant. I think it is more just looking at it from the point of view of a consumer of what form of deodorant do you like? And so be ready to shop with them, be ready for them to try one, realize they don't like it and buy another, and maybe you can get some travel sizes of different deodorants so that they can give it a go. I even recommend keeping a little travel size one in their bag, either their backpack or if they go to sports or something after school, keep a little travel deo in there for them too. They're learning to take more responsibility for their personal care, and I think this is a great time to reset these expectations because they can finally understand why they're being asked to shower, why they need to wash their hands. So go all in and start from square one here. They're going to be looking for you for cues if this is embarrassing or not. So try to decide now, are you going to be the person that is making embarrassing jokes, that is making your child feel shame for these things, or are you just going to normalize it and help them through this so that they can buy deodorant as an adult and not feel embarrassed about this? Everyone is going through this at once. I hate that it becomes an embarrassing topic for kids, but really, it's the person that's not wearing deodorant that should be embarrassed, and yet starting to wear deodorant can feel like something really scary for kids. So with that, my advice, have regular and casual conversations about showering consistently, especially after days where they've been playing sports outside a lot or they have gym class. Talk to them regularly and casually about using deodorant and understanding body sweat and odor, and that this is a natural thing. A lot of people have BO before they even leave for work in the morning. Washing hands thoroughly, I think it's a great time to come back to it. Tell them slow down, wash your hands, keep them clean, because they also understand now the consequences of what it means to actually get sick and have to not go to baseball practice for 2 weeks. And brushing those teeth twice a day, you'd be surprised how many kids are cutting corners on this. But just let them know that, people with bad breath really do have a hard time talking closely to other people. People don't want to have long conversations with somebody with bad breath. It's not something to make fun of. It's not something to embarrass people about. But, it is something that, if you notice somebody has stanky breath every time you talk to them, you're probably not going to be excited to sit and talk with them for 20 minutes at lunch. I know that's in the face of making fun of people, but if you're having trouble incentivizing this for them, I think I would let them know, this will get in the way of how things go for you socially. Normalize these changes though: acne, growth spurts, menstruation, voice changes. Bring these things up before their peers do. I think with puberty, it is always about being a step ahead or even a couple steps ahead, so that when these things happen, they do feel normal. They do understand that it's a change. And then my last piece of advice here is share resources and books so that your child can hear about these topics in a healthy, factual way. The rumor mill with kids is so crazy. Some of the things that they're worried about are not even real. And whatever resources you give them, whether it's a book, it's a pamphlet, it's a video that you watch together, I would make sure that they have a way to access this again on their own. So keep that book in their bedroom. So if they want to go back privately and read it, they don't have to feel embarrassed trying to find this book in the house or ask you for it. Some kids do just want to go back and take a second on their own and reflect on these things. And then they'll come to you if there needs to be more of a conversation. Tip number 2, fractions are everywhere. Fractions are huge in 5th grade. I'm sure that they've been working on it for a couple of years now, but man, it can get really, really hard. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'd much rather talk about the puberty than about the fractions. I am a teacher, I've been to school, I've taught fractions myself, and my goodness, it is just such a difficult thing to conceptualize. So consider your child who's never had to use fractions at all before. When they're being asked to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions, it can become a really confusing experience for them. So we're gonna see students starting to use fractions in real world problems, not just on worksheets as well. So you wanna set them up for success by talking and using fractions in your day-to-day life so that these things start to click for them. This can absolutely be one of the hardest units for parents to support their kids with, so please don't be afraid to reach out to the teacher for help or even outsource this. I wouldn't be upset if teaching fractions is something that hits your frustration point as well. But I said you wanted to be hands-on. This is gonna mean getting cooking with your kiddos. We use fractions a lot in cooking and in particular in baking, so I would get out the measuring spoons, the measuring cups, and start cooking with them. One thing that you can do with your kiddos is double or even triple recipes. So maybe you've got to make a bunch of cookies for people, or you've got a sauce or a soup you want to make double and freeze it. Have them do that math for you to figure it out. Check it before you cook, of course. And one thing I would do too is take away the 1 cup measurement so that they have to rely on the 1/2 cup, on the 1/4 cup, the 1/3 cup. And this will make it a little bit more challenging for them as they have to get the measurements going. This is also an awesome time because your child is at an age where they can start to actually be a lot more helpful in the kitchen. So pull out those favorite recipes, start teaching them how to cook, and think about when they are 18 and they're in college for the first time, or they move into that first apartment, that you want them to be able to fend for themselves. So you're doing 2 birds with 1 stone here by getting them involved in the kitchen and figuring out how fractions fit into that too. I would start getting them involved around the house as well. So if you need to be measuring walls, measuring different things, maybe you're hanging some pictures, or you're moving, you're buying furniture, get them to help out with the measuring. A lot of fractions find their way into measurements, and this will help in other parts of math as well, because they will also have units in math that have to do with finding the area and the perimeter of different objects. And as you do this, as always, encourage your child to talk out loud and explain their reasoning. In math, they will be expected to write sentences or speak out loud to explain what is going on. And this is where you're gonna see kids losing points on tests because yes, they could do the math, but they couldn't actually explain it. We are done with the days of memorizing things. Yes, maybe your child had to memorize their multiplication tables, but now we just want you to prove that you actually understand what you did. Okay, tip number 3, talking about building their reading and writing stamina. In 5th grade, reading and writing become intertwined. You are not studying one without doing the other. Because of this, they need to really build their muscles when it comes to reading and writing independently. You're going to see kids reading longer texts, both fiction and nonfiction, and they're going to be asked to analyze these things deeply. You will be impressed with the things that they are expected to be able to do. We're talking about figurative language, the purpose of the author, themes that come up, the point of view, wondering if your narrator is a reliable narrator or not, wondering if there's other point of views from what your narrator is discussing. And then, of course, they need to support all of their answers with evidence from the text. The days of memorizing are gone. Your child should always be working with the book next to them, maybe even with a highlighter or ready to underline to prove exactly where they found this information. It feels kind of funny to have them doing these things now, but if you think about when you were in high school and if you went to college, these are the types of things that you are asked to do. You want to use the book to take the test. And so have them used to feeling like, yeah, I did have to read that 2 to 3 times. Yeah, I did go back and highlight and underline. These are good study skills that will help them for the rest of their career. Writing is moving past simple stories and things into opinion essays, research, and literary analysis. And stamina matters. Kids are going to be reading for much longer stretches of time and writing in full paragraphs. So you want to make sure, if you can, that they actually enjoy this. And even if they're struggling in school, that they know the difference between having to read at school and enjoying the book that they're reading at home. And so with that, they should have a practice of reading a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes every single day. Bring books wherever you go so that they can read in the car, so that they can read if they're at their siblings' baseball practice and they have time. If you're at the restaurant and you're waiting to be seated, be that family that always has a book with them, because they just need to build these muscles and be reading for longer and longer periods of time in class. When you are reading with them, and yes, reading with them is an amazing thing, do not drop this practice. Start asking deeper questions during reading. What evidence from the story makes you think that? How might the ending have been different? Playing around with how the ending would have changed is actually a really nice exercise, because these books are getting so much more complicated. And the same thing goes with their writing. So encourage them to write an alternate ending to the book. Pretend that you're the main character. What would you do next? Let them tap into their imagination, but you turn it into a writing exercise. I love reading nonfiction articles with kids. There's 2 websites that are awesome: Time for Kids, like Time Magazine, but for kids, and News ELA. These both are making appropriate articles for kids this age that are about real life things happening, but are at a lexile or a reading level that they can actually take it in and understand. When you read it together, have them either write or discuss with you to summarize what they just read to make sure that they're taking it in. Nonfiction is always going to be harder to read than fiction. And in order to build their writing stamina, I would encourage your child to start writing on their own, start journaling. I always think journaling is one of the best ways to get kids to love writing. And at this age group, there are a lot of fun journal prompt books that the whole family could get in on. So maybe you pick out a couple of prompts, or you buy one of these fun books with all these different questions, but the whole family writes about it. And you say like, okay, on Wednesday we pick out the prompt and you've got a day or 2 to get it done. And on Friday during dinner, we're all going to read our answers from this prompt together. And when you make it into a fun activity like that, it is so much more exciting to actually get it done. You might see them racing to get their journal prompt finished, and it will also bring your family closer together as a result. So try that. Maybe start with 1 a week with these prompts and see if you can build it in a little bit more. You'll be really surprised with the fun conversations you have. Enjoying this video? Become a member on Patreon or on YouTube. This will help me continue to make great videos on primary focus. Later in this video, I'm going to share some book recommendations for you. Look out for the chapter marker with that below, and then I'll share some favorite chapter books for 5th graders. Tip number 4, let's talk about peer pressure and emotional growth. Boy, oh boy, as much as we want the kids to be listening to adults just like they did when they were in kindergarten, they are really so deeply focused on what their peers think of them at this point. And so you're going to have to figure out what that looks like for you as you guide your child through these moments and these struggles. I know, for example, when I think about how teachers in 5th grade act compared to teachers in kindergarten and 1st grade, there's a lot more instruction going on in kindergarten and 1st grade because the kids truly don't know how to act. Once kids get older into like 5th grade, they do know how to act, but for the first time, they're wondering about the consequences of how they act. Like, Yeah, I could do the right thing, but will I be made fun of for it? What really is the right thing if I'm going to experience social consequences for not being cool? Unfortunately, I think kids are so self-conscious at this age. A lot of this peer pressure is almost brought on by themselves. I think it's important to question kids to see that if they really are worried about something happening because they've gotten a clue that this is going to happen, or if they've decided themselves and created a scenario in their head. I think this can help you decide how to move forward with your kiddo as they're making these choices. And this is something when I worked with older kids, I was constantly trying to figure out, like, this child is very worked up about this thing, and so what in their mind is real that we need to be working through, and what in their mind is just anxiety, and they're feeling these anxious feelings for the first time. Friendships are everything in 5th grade. According to your child, friendships are going to be more important than academics. It's just a thing. You're going to have to accept it. And you're going to see kids that are experimenting with new types of relationships. You might be hearing about dating going on in 5th grade. You're going to be hearing about peer pressure going on. You're going to be hearing about social exclusion going on. And unfortunately, these things are going to happen. So it's just good to kind of hear this now and think through how are you going to help your child with these scenarios. Bullying and mean moments may increase, and your child's confidence may take a dip this year. And so my advice to this is be ready to have open conversations with your child. Even though they might not come to you in the same way or be as forthcoming as they used to be ready to be there to listen to them and be a sounding board. Don't always feel like you have to jump in with the advice immediately. A lot of times kids can talk through these things and get to the solution on their own, but they need a safe person to talk to about these things. What I love to do, I make this suggestion with kindergarten and I make it 5th grade in 5th grade too. Role playing with your child is really important, where they can practice saying no in these situations. They can practice how they would respond to different things. It might feel goofy, it might feel forced, but if your child has had an opportunity to have those words come out of their mouth once, it will be a lot easier the second time when they actually need to defend their thinking. And what I would do with your child is just always encourage honor, honesty, and integrity when they are working with their friends. Being able to say no. The options of going and finding somebody else to be friends with, walking away, are always going to be options. I'm not going over to that side of the playground to be with these people anymore because they're always up to something. I'm going to opt out of this, and I'm going to find a different way to keep myself entertained. Now, on the academic side, when we talk about their confidence, we really need to reinforce a growth mindset with kids. This is the belief that you can grow and change and get better at things. It just takes time, it takes effort, it takes practice, as opposed to thinking you're either born smart or you're not. You can do it or you can't do it. I'm good at math, I'm bad at math. And so really work with your child to have growth mindset language. I'm not good at this yet. I'm still learning. Come back to me soon. I will get good at this. I'm struggling right now, but I won't be struggling always. And just try to reframe their mindset to understand, like, the point that you're in right now is going to change and you will grow and you will get better, especially because you're the kind of kid that's going to put the work in. My last tip here, talking about peer pressure and emotional growth, is that you should be watching for signs that your child is withdrawing or losing interest in school. This is a sign that they may need encouragement, support, or they're dealing with some deep feelings that they need a little extra hand to deal with. These kids are often getting influxes of hormones, they're experiencing new things for the first time, and if you start to see withdrawing behavior or they've lost interest in the things that they used to love, it is a time to start watching them a little bit closely and make sure that you're setting up the support system that they need. Tip number 5, fostering independence and readiness for middle school. You're going to hear about middle school non-stop in 5th grade, and that is for good reason. It is a big jump. The good news is, consider 5th grade training ground for middle school. Kids are going to be asked to manage more responsibility at home and at school, and teachers are going to be expecting self-advocacy and organization from their students. So some things that you can be doing at home: assign regular chores to your child. Things like doing the laundry, loading and unloading the dishwasher, making their own lunch. I think your child is capable of so many more chores, so you might as well put them to work to make your home life a little bit easier. But the ones that you expect them to do every single week or on a daily basis should be things where they feel a direct consequence if they don't get it done. Like making your lunch, for example. Okay, well, you forgot your lunch. You're going to have to go through the lunch line. Sorry. Or, doing your laundry. Gosh, you didn't finish that in time. Like, sorry, you're going to have to wear the shirt that you didn't want to wear. Or sorry, you can't go anywhere because you don't have any clean shirts. If you try to focus in on these chores where there's a direct cause and effect, this will simulate some of the things that teachers are going to put them through in middle school, where there's a lot of cause and effect. There's a lot of letting kids fall on their face because we want them to learn these lessons now when they're kids and there are supports in place for them to do okay, instead of out in the real world where when you fall out in the real world, it is not always pretty. Want to see more videos like this? Become a member on Patreon or on YouTube. This will help support Primary Focus so I can put out more awesome videos to help you with your kids. Thanks. Adding on to this, I would have your child be in charge of organizing their backpack and materials for school. I would start to have your child lead their weekly routine for homework and activities. You're going to see a lot more projects that are long-term. Hey, you have a month to get this done. Yes, they're going to need guidance from you, but let them lead it and let them feel it when they don't get it done. And then finally, have your child email or contact the teacher when they have questions for their teacher instead of you doing it. This is something that teachers will have a lot of respect for their students if they are able to start to advocate for themselves. And this is a really big thing in middle school because very often it will be harder to get a hold of these teachers once they're that age. Now, you can be working in the background, of course, and double checking with the teacher, but in the end, what you want to do is have your child become the person that is shuttling information back and forth, and they can be a trustworthy narrator of what is going on. Again, don't be afraid to email the teacher with questions or even tell them, like, we are trying this, like, can you give me any tips, or how would you expect this email to be sent? Teachers are going to be so receptive to you working with your child to share this information. All right, let's get into some book recommendations. Guys, the 5th grade books are so much fun. I have to tell you, I only have 4 in person here because I struggled to get copies of these books. They are so wildly popular. I just love how once kids kind of hit this juvenile fiction age, that the stories open up and are so much more fun. So if they're not reading it already, the Harry Potter series, I tried to get these from the library. Not a single copy of any of the books was available. That is how popular Harry Potter is. What you'll notice about Harry Potter and all of these other book series is that we're starting to see kids that are about 12 years old. And so something I've noticed in a lot of kids' fictions is you're looking at kids that are either in 1st grade, kids that are in about 4th grade, and then kids that are about 12, kind of that middle school age. I don't know if this is a strategy, but I do think it is a quick rule of thumb if you're trying to figure out if it's a book your child can access, that books about a 1st grader are going to be for younger, earlier readers. Books about a 4th grader are probably going to be for like that 2nd to maybe 4th grade level. And once you see the characters are about 12 years old, this is indicating probably like 5th grade into middle school reading levels. So Harry Potter, they're all starting middle school in that book. And a lot of these books I'm going to mention, they are specifically 11 or 12-year-old kids. A series that I really love, and there's a ton of these books, are the I Survived series. These talk about natural disasters or just disasters that have happened in the past. Most of these books are right around 100 pages. This one, for example, is the Joplin Tornado 2011. I think this is one of the more recent disasters, but they go back to like the 1800s, and they take a character that is usually about middle school age and they live through the disaster. This and a lot of other books that hit this age hit that historical fiction mark. And I really encourage kids to read historical fiction because it opens up the world of history in a way that they might not necessarily connect from a textbook or what is going on in class. So I recommend the I Survived series. Most of them are written by Lauren Tarshis. Okay, this one came specifically from Reddit. I saw so many teachers recommending this book, A Night Divided by Jennifer Nielsen. So this is about a family the night that the Berlin Wall went up and they get separated from each other. Such an interesting story, very kind of suspenseful, has a lot of true history going on in it too. What I want to show you here is that these books, even though they look thicker, like this book is a little over 300 pages, most of these books you're going to find that they're still double spaced. They don't have illustrations. They might have like something quick at the beginning of a chapter. But even though it's 300 pages, it still is a very fast read if you're an adult. But I think for kids, it can feel exciting to have a big, thick book like this. But this is a total page turner. Graphic novels here. I mean, Dave Pilkey, he is still the winner. Gosh, I wish I was him. This guy knows how to write these books. Dog Man's going to be popular, but can I invite you to explore cat kid. As a cat person, I'm very happy to see that, he's getting into cats and other things. If you like the goofiness of Dog Man, your cat kid is even crazier. It switches back and forth between a lot of different types of comics. It is very goofy. It is very colorful. And this is a whole series as well. So these are fun. I know people have thoughts about how popular graphic novels have gotten. And I have thoughts about it too, right? Like, we worry about kids' attention spans. We worry about them reading, entire paragraphs. Like, if you are refusing to read any kind of book except for a graphic novel, how can a book like this with no pictures at all be appealing? And what I would encourage you to watch for is the balance, right? Like, your child hopefully is reading novels and larger pieces of text in class. They should be. And so if they're reading a mix of graphic novels and sort of traditional novels at home, I think that is okay. If they're hooked on a series, I wouldn't see any reason to stop. I do think there's reason for concern if they only read graphic novels and they're really refusing to read regular series. At that point, I would just be working with your child to find some sort of series, and I would be reading with them to get them used to it. They're going to need some help to get used to the pacing and get back to imagining these things themselves. But generally speaking, if your child enjoys graphic novels, I don't think there's any issue with it whatsoever. It's a really fun way to read, right? If your child likes mysteries, and I think the mysteries are so much better at this age, James Ponte has a whole series of books. I believe all of his books are mystery books, and he has sort of, different series and things. So he has the Spies series. This is Sherlock Society. There's the Toast, I believe, is one of the series. Those ones are really popular. But these are fun mysteries, modern day kids. Most of them are middle school age. And he's pretty good at exposing kids to just different cultural things, international travel. I think his books are very colorful in the sense of what the kids are thinking about and learning about as they're going through and solving this mystery. Some other books here that I literally couldn't get copies of. Esperanza Rising. Now, this is sometimes an assigned book in 5th grade. It's pretty common. Esperanza Rising is a beautiful piece of historical fiction, very interesting book. If you have a child that's kind of introspective as well, I think it is a really great read for them. Number the Stars. This is a World War II novel. You might have read this yourself. I think it came out in 1989. Holes by Louis Sachar. This book, I was absolutely swept away by this book as a kid, and it is still just as good. Has a great movie adaptation. And for kids, especially if they don't love reading, but really any kids, I would motivate them to get to watch the movie or the TV adaptation if they finish the book. This is something I personally do a lot of the time when I'm reading, and it helps me keep up with reading on my own. Unfortunately, they're going to discover that, the movie is always disappointing, and the movie is never better than the book if you've actually read and enjoyed the book. But this is a really great incentive for kids, and I think can kind of get the whole family in on reading a book and incentivizing this as well. Hey, real quick, could you like this video? Little actions like this help small channels like mine become big channels. Thanks. Now, let's talk about if your child is a little bit below grade level. The book James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl is such a great book because it hits that lower reading level, but the content of the book, the vocabulary, the things that they're discussing are really higher level. So this is a book that I think kind of hits that sweet spot of a 3rd, 4th grade reading level, but the thought process and the way that you can dive into it like a 5th grader. If your baby is a little bit above grade level, take them to the next level with Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes by Eleanor Corr. I hope I'm saying that right. This is a great classic story. I think you'll recognize this story once you look into it. It was a very famous story, probably in the 80s and 90s. If your baby's a little bit above grade level, keep pushing them, keep reading. And I would say at the library, you're going to see this section. It's usually called juvenile fiction. So this is not quite young adult novels. I mean, you should always, maybe do a little bit of research to make sure it's fitting in with your family values. But juvenile tends to be more PG rated. So like, even if there is a crush, it really is just a crush. We're not making out or having to be talking about contraception or anything. Like, it's just a crush. It's more juvenile, if you will. So look out for that term, particularly in libraries, can be a great place to kind of feel out what is the reading level here. And what I would say is, As your child's reading, I would encourage them to be writing after they read. So maybe they're keeping a little reading log and they're keeping a diary of what's going on. Maybe they're reflecting and they are thinking about, gosh, like what if this happened to me? But reading and writing are so intertwined. It is helpful if you can have your child just get used to having a pencil and paper while they are reading. It'll be an easier flow for them as school gets more difficult over time. So closing out here, 5th grade is a huge year of growth academically, socially, and emotionally. And just remember, your child might act really mature one day, and then the next day just be totally back to their kid-like selves. And that is normal. They're going back and forth between child world and teenage world. They are deep in those tween years. The best thing that you can do with your baby is stay connected, stay curious, and keep the lines of communication open. You don't want to be judgmental with them. You want to be a guide to them. You want them to know that they can come to you and you will listen to them. Even if they're, sitting on the same thought again and again and again, you're going to be there and help them until they figure it out. The last thing you want is your child to think that you are somebody that they can't go to, because they will close off, they will withdraw, and they will start getting advice from people that maybe are also 11 years old and don't really know what the right thing to do is. And don't sweat the small stuff. Kids this age are really forgetful. They're a hot mess. If they're messy, if they forget their homework, they are learning these life lessons, and just be there for them as they figure these things out. You want to focus overall on independence, resilience, confidence, and that home is still a safe place that they can come and be sharing things. I want to hear advice from you though. Do you have a 5th grader right now? Is there something that's been working for you at home? Do you have questions about guiding your 5th grader? Maybe you've already been through this phase and you want to share your wisdom. Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. My name's Natalie. I'll see you next time.